I spent the last 6 months researching which vehicles can actually survive an EMP attack, and what I found surprised me. Most of what you hear online is wrong, so let me show you 3 vehicles under $15,000 that will actually work when everything else stops. But first, let's talk about what an EMP actually does. An electromagnetic pulse is a burst of electromagnetic radiation. It can come from a high-altitude nuclear detonation or a powerful solar storm. When this pulse hits, it fries electronic components. And modern vehicles, they're packed with them. Engine control units, fuel injection computers, digital ignition systems, one pulse, and they're dead. The key to EMP survival is simple: mechanical systems instead of electronic ones. Vehicles built before the mid-1980s generally used carburetors, mechanical distributors, and minimal electronics. But here's the catch: not all old vehicles are EMP-proof. Some had electronic ignition as early as the mid-1970s, so you need to know exactly what to look for. Vehicle number 1, Ford F-150 or F-250, specifically 1980 through 1986 models. Why these years? Ford's 7th generation F-Series used carburetors on most engines. The standard 300 cubic inch inline 6 came with a single-barrel carburetor. The V8 options, the 302 and 351, also had carburetors during this period. Here's what makes them EMP-resistant. Mechanical fuel delivery through the carburetor. No fuel injection computer. Points-based or basic electronic ignition that's more resistant than modern systems. Mechanical transmission options. The automatic transmissions from this era were hydraulic, not computer-controlled. Where to find them? Check Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and local classified ads. Look in rural areas where these trucks were work vehicles. Farmers and ranchers kept them running for decades because they're simple and reliable. Price range? You're looking at $5,000 to $12,000 depending on condition. A truck with under 150,000 miles, minimal rust, and good maintenance records will be on the higher end. But even a project truck that needs work can be found for $3,000 to $5,000. What to avoid? Any F-150 from 1987 or later. In 1987, Ford converted the inline 6 to fuel injection. By 1988, all F-150 engines were fuel injected. Also, watch out for trucks that have been upgraded with modern electronics. Some owners install electronic ignition or fuel injection systems. That kills the EMP protection. Inspection checklist. Open the hood and look for a carburetor sitting on top of the engine. It's a metal device with a round air cleaner on top. If you see fuel rails and injectors instead, walk away. Check the distributor. There should be a mechanical distributor with a rotor and points or a simple electronic module. Modern coil-on-plug systems won't work after an EMP. Look at the transmission. Manual is best. If automatic, make sure it's a C4 or C6 transmission from that era, not a modern electronic one. Vehicle number 2, Jeep Cherokee XJ, but only specific years and engines. The Cherokee XJ ran from 1984 to 2001, but you want 1984 through 1986 models with the 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine. These came with carburetors. Some early XJs with the 2.8-liter V6 also had carburetors, but the 4-cylinder is more common. Why the Cherokee? It's compact, has 4-wheel drive, and can go places bigger trucks can't. If you need to leave an urban area on back roads or trails, the Cherokee excels. It's also more fuel efficient than a full-size truck, which matters when gas stations aren't working. The 2.5-liter 4-cylinder with a carburetor is simple and reliable. It won't win any races, but it'll keep running. The 4-wheel drive system on these early XJs is mechanical with a transfer case you engage manually. No computers, no electronics. Price range, $3,000 to $10,000. The Cherokee XJ has become popular with off-road enthusiasts, so prices have gone up. But you can still find good deals on carbureted models because most people want the later fuel-injected 4.0-liter versions. The problem with Cherokee XJs: rust. These vehicles are notorious for frame rust, especially in the Northeast and Midwest where road salt is used. Inspect the frame carefully. Get underneath and check for rust holes or severe corrosion. Surface rust is okay, but structural rust is a deal breaker. Also be aware, Fuel-injected XJs started in 1986 for the 2.5 and 1987 for the 4.0-liter six-cylinder. The fuel-injected versions are not EMP-proof. They rely on electronic control modules that won't survive a pulse. So if you're looking at a Cherokee, make absolutely sure it has a carburetor. Where to find them? Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and California have rust-free examples. If you're buying from the Northeast, inspect it thoroughly or walk away. Jeep forums and off-road communities often have leads on clean XJs. Vehicle number 3. Any pre-1980 light truck with a carburetor and mechanical systems. This is the safest category because vehicles before 1980 almost universally lacked electronic fuel injection and complex engine computers. Examples: Ford F-Series from the 1970s, Chevy C10 and C20 trucks from the 1960s and 70s, Dodge D-Series pickups, International Harvester Scouts, Toyota Land Cruisers FJ40 through FJ60 from the 1970s, older Jeep CJ models. What they all have in common: carburetors, mechanical ignition systems, no computers. Many use points and condenser ignition, which is completely mechanical. Even if the alternator gets damaged by an EMP, you can replace it quickly with spare parts. Why pre-1980? Electronic ignition started appearing in the mid-1970s, but it wasn't universal. By 1980, most manufacturers had switched. Going earlier than 1980 ensures you avoid electronic ignition entirely. Plus, pre-1980 trucks are simple enough that anyone with basic mechanical knowledge can work on them. The Toyota Land Cruiser FJ40 deserves special mention. These are legendary for durability and simplicity. The inline-six engine with a carburetor is nearly indestructible. Land Cruisers can go anywhere and keep running for hundreds of thousands of miles. The downside? They've become collectibles, so prices have increased. Expect to pay $10,000 to $25,000 for a decent FJ40. Price range for other pre-1980 trucks: $2,000 to $15,000 depending on make, model, and condition. A basic Chevy C10 from the 1970s can be found for $3,000 to $6,000. Dodge D-Series trucks are even cheaper, often under $5,000. Now here's the biggest mistake I see people make. They buy an old truck and then restore it with modern parts. They install electronic ignition for easier starting. They retrofit fuel injection for better performance. They add modern stereos, GPS, and alarm systems. Every electronic upgrade you add is a vulnerability. When that EMP hits, all those upgrades become dead weight. Keep it stock. Keep it simple. If the previous owner installed electronic parts, remove them and put the original mechanical parts back in. Yes, carburetors are less convenient than fuel injection. Yes, points and condenser ignition requires periodic adjustment. But that's the price of EMP survival. Let me give you a real-world inspection example. I looked at a 1985 Ford F-250 last month. The owner said it was all original. But when I opened the hood, I saw a Holley electronic fuel injection system. The owner had upgraded it for better fuel economy. That truck went from EMP-proof to EMP-vulnerable in one modification. I walked away. Another mistake: assuming diesel engines are EMP-proof. Older mechanical diesel engines from before 1990 can survive an EMP because they use mechanical fuel injection pumps, but modern diesel trucks use electronic injection systems that will fail. If you want a diesel, you need something like a pre-1990 Dodge with a Cummins 12-valve mechanical injection, or an older Mercedes diesel. These are rare and expensive. Parts availability is critical. Ford and Chevy parts from the 1970s and 80s are everywhere. You can walk into any auto parts store and get what you need. Dodge parts are nearly as common. Toyota Land Cruiser parts are available but more expensive. Rare vehicles like International Scouts have a dedicated community, but parts are harder to find. I recommend stocking spare parts before a crisis. Get an extra carburetor, distributor cap, rotor, points if applicable, spark plugs, ignition coil, alternator, starter, and fuel pump if mechanical. Store these in a metal box that acts as a Faraday cage. A grounded metal trash can works. This protects your spare parts from EMP damage. Speaking of alternators, they're vulnerable. The diodes inside can fry. But here's the good news. You can drive without an alternator temporarily. The battery will power the ignition and lights for a while. And replacing an alternator on these old trucks is a 15-minute job if you have a spare. Fuel is another consideration. Carbureted engines are less picky about fuel quality than modern fuel-injected engines. If you're stuck using old gas or poor quality fuel, a carburetor will handle it better. You might need to adjust the mixture, but it'll run. Maintenance is straightforward on these vehicles. Change the oil every 3,000 miles. Check and adjust the carburetor annually. Replace spark plugs and wires as needed. Keep fresh fuel filters. Grease the chassis fittings. None of this requires a computer diagnostic tool or special training. Learn basic carburetor tuning. It's not hard. There are two main adjustments: idle speed and mixture. With a screwdriver in 10 minutes, you can dial in a carburetor for optimal performance. YouTube has hundreds of tutorials for every carburetor type. Ignition timing is another skill to learn. If your truck has a points-based distributor, you'll need to set the timing with a timing light. Again, this is simple and there are countless guides online. Modern computerized ignition systems do this automatically, but they also fail in an EMP. Mechanical systems require your input but keep working. Where to learn these skills? Join online forums for your specific vehicle. Ford Truck Enthusiasts Forum, the CJ2A page for Jeep CJs, IH8MUD for Toyota Land Cruisers. These communities are full of people who've been maintaining these vehicles for decades. They'll teach you everything you need to know. Buy a factory service manual for your vehicle. These are available online as PDFs or in print. They cover every system in detail and show you how to repair everything. Modern vehicles have manuals too, but they assume you're a dealer technician with special tools. Old vehicle manuals assume you're in your garage with basic hand tools. Now let's talk about what happens after an EMP. You have a working vehicle and most people don't. Do you drive it? That's a personal decision. On one hand, mobility is survival. You can transport supplies, evacuate danger, and reach your destination much faster than on foot. On the other hand, a working vehicle makes you a target. Operational security matters. If you're the only person on the road, everyone knows you have something valuable. Some preppers plan to use their EMP-proof vehicle for the initial bug-out, then hide it and travel on foot or bicycle. Others plan to stay put and use the vehicle sparingly, only at night. Think about this before the crisis. Camouflage can help. A beat-up old truck covered in primer and rust doesn't attract attention. A shiny restored classic does. Some people intentionally keep their EMP vehicle looking rough and plain. No chrome, no fancy paint, nothing that stands out. It's called the gray man principle. Blend in and avoid notice. Let's address a myth. Some people say you need to disconnect the battery to protect your vehicle from an EMP. That's not true for older mechanical vehicles. The pulse travels through power lines and antennas primarily. A vehicle that's off and sitting in a garage is already reasonably protected. Disconnecting the battery might help a little, but it's not necessary for carbureted vehicles with minimal electronics. However, if you're really concerned, you can park your vehicle in a metal building that acts as a Faraday cage. A steel garage with the door closed provides some shielding. It won't be perfect, but it's better than nothing. The vehicle doesn't need to be running during an EMP to be damaged. The pulse induces currents in any conductor. One more consideration: manual versus automatic transmission. Manual transmissions are inherently more reliable and EMP-proof because they're purely mechanical. No electronics at all. Automatic transmissions from the pre-1990 era are hydraulic and also EMP-resistant, but they're more complex and can fail mechanically. If you have a choice, go with a manual. It's also better for fuel economy and gives you more control. Can you convert a modern vehicle to be EMP-proof? Technically, yes, but it's expensive and impractical. You'd need to replace the entire fuel system with a carburetor, swap the computerized ignition for a mechanical distributor, remove all electronic modules, and replace the transmission if it's computer-controlled. By the time you're done, you've spent more than buying an old truck that's already EMP-proof. What about motorcycles? Older motorcycles from the 1970s and early 80s with carburetors and kickstarters are excellent EMP-proof options. They're fuel-efficient, maneuverable, and can go places trucks can't. A Honda CB series from the 1970s or an early Harley-Davidson Sportster are good choices. Same rules apply. Carburetor, No electronics, mechanical everything. Final advice: buy your EMP vehicle now while prices are still reasonable. As more people become aware of EMP threats, demand for these older vehicles will increase and prices will rise. I've already seen Ford trucks from the 1980s double in price over the last 5 years. Don't wait for the perfect vehicle. If you find a solid Ford F-150 from 1980 to 1986, a carbureted Cherokee XJ, or any pre-1980 truck in good condition, buy it. You can always upgrade or modify it later. The important thing is to have a vehicle that will work when nothing else does. Test your vehicle regularly. Drive it monthly to keep everything lubricated and functional. Old vehicles that sit unused develop problems. Fuel goes bad, seals dry out, batteries die. Regular use prevents these issues. Keep a paper map in your vehicle. GPS won't work after an EMP. Know how to navigate without electronics. A compass and a good map are essential skills that most people have forgotten. Stock extra fuel if you can safely and legally store it. Gasoline goes bad after about 6 months, so use fuel stabilizer and rotate your stock. Diesel lasts longer, around a year with stabilizer. But having even 50 gallons of fuel on hand could make the difference between reaching safety and being stranded. So, which vehicle should you choose? If you need maximum capability and aren't worried about fuel consumption, go with a Ford F-150 or F-250 from 1980 to 1986. If you want something more maneuverable and fuel efficient for urban or trail use, get a carbureted Jeep Cherokee XJ from 1984 to 1986. If you want absolute simplicity and the widest parts availability, find any pre-1980 truck in decent condition. All 3 options will work when modern vehicles won't. That's what matters. While everyone else is stranded with dead cars full of fried electronics, you'll have a running vehicle. That gives you options. That gives you survival capability. The threat of an EMP is real. Whether from a nuclear attack or a severe solar storm, a widespread pulse could happen. And when it does, the only vehicles on the road will be the old mechanical ones. Make sure yours is one of them. If this information helped you, leave a comment below about which vehicle you're planning to get. I read every comment and answer questions. And if you want more content about EMP preparedness, hit that subscribe button. My next video will cover how to protect your home's critical electronics using Faraday cages and surge protection. Thanks for watching, and stay prepared.